the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS.
And I'm the news director at WBLS and at the Steve Harvey Morning Show. I'm Ann Tripp.
And we're at the mansion with the mayor, the mayor's house. Hey,
Great
listen.
It's great to see both of you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. You know, the last time we spoke about, your day-to-day. Can you bring that in? Because being the mayor is a tough thing to do. So give us your day-to-day.
Nonstop.
Yeah,
And
nonstop.
I think that oftentimes people see what happens front and not realizing that there's so many layers beforehand. Like today, we were out in Rockaway talking about the weather-related emergency and preparation. Also was out in Coney Island at a senior center speaking with several seniors in different locations, and then moved for a certain number of interviews and preparation. There's a lot of preparation because any hour you at a different location doing different things, and you just really have to be ready and have that energy to do it.
That energy, and I know you had some health situations and you overcame it.
Yes.
We talk about health all the time. Can you just touch that?
Yeah, and particularly health for black and brown folks. I was dealing with vision loss and nerve damage. Doctor said I was going to lose my sight. I was going to lose some fingers and toes because of advanced diabetes. And it was just about shifting my diet. I found a doctor in Ohio, Dr. Esselton, who basically stated, change your diet. And it wasn't just in your DNA that you automatically were going to have diabetes or other ailments. It was just in diet, and I made that switch, and it just was a game changer for me.
There are a lot of people going through it. What do you tell them?
One day at a time, and don't believe that based on age or based on your family DNA that you automatically are going to have those chronic diseases. The reason it runs in our bloodlines is because our food run in our bloodline. We're eating the same food, so we're going to have the same ailments. Everybody on the block is going to have diabetes because everybody on the block is going to that chicken joint down the block. So it's really about becoming informed of what you're eating. And listen, you don't have to do what I did and go plant-based. It's just making shifts in your food. And you'll be surprised how a simple shift can change how you feel every day.
Eat for health, not for taste, but everything in moderation.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Pharmacy should not be PHAR. It should be FAR.
And once you get used to it, it starts to taste good. It doesn't have to be tasteless. Trust me, okay?
Well
'Cause
said.
I need taste.
Yeah, she brings her
I'm
own
from
stuff.
Brooklyn. I need taste, okay? I need taste,
Right.
okay? All right. Speaking of taste, you vetoed a couple of bills. I just want you to give us an idea as
Yes.
to why you did, because this is like new stuff.
Yes.
The first thing that you vetoed apparently was a 21% rate hike, hourly minimum wage for people who deliver food.
Right.
And the people in the city council say we're going to try to override that. Why'd you veto that?
Yeah, because we have to be consistent in our message. We paid an increase in restaurant delivery workers. We allowed them to say that we should have an increase in their salaries. They wanted to do the same form of increase for delivery workers in supermarkets, which is different. People who go to restaurant, that is an option. But if you have to go and you're home, you're stuck at home, you can't leave, disability, etc., and you have to have your food, your grocery delivered to you, we're adding a new cost on that. So we can't say that we're worried about affordability for folks who are trying to keep food on the table, but we're going to increase the cost of the eggs, increase the cost of the bread. And we said no to that. This is not the time to increase the cost of everyday groceries. Going out to a restaurant, we can make that determination. But having to have food delivered to you because you cannot get there for one reason or another, we should not be doing that to you.
Oh, you're only talking about food delivered from like a restaurant if you order there. That's what you're talking about. Not homebound seniors or other people who cannot get to the grocery store. They need those deliveries.
Exactly. The ones who deliver from restaurants, which is a luxury, that's fine. If you want to charge more to do that, that's fine. But if you are talking about our supermarkets where a person is delivering, they can't leave their homes. They are homebound, they may be dealing with an ailment of whatever reason, we should not be adding additional costs on their necessities that they need in food.
Okay. You also vetoed a bill that would abolish criminal penalties for people that like to sell stuff on the street.
Which number one thing I hear when I go into communities is they're saying, Eric, we have illegal vendors all over the streets, clogging up our sidewalks, selling products, hurting our brick and mortars. Some would be in front of a grocery store where they have to pay for brick and mortars for staff and et cetera, saying the same things, selling the same things that's inside that grocery store. It's just unfair. And then you don't know the quality of the product that you're selling. And so what we're saying, you can't place vendors everywhere. And when we go in, we hold people accountable, they turn around and just keep selling the product if we're saying there's no repercussion for your actions. So we're not talking about charging people with felonies. No, it's a summons that they get, and they have to return to court on that criminal summons.
Is it a problem getting vendors' licenses? Is that a problem as well?
Yes.
To legitimate vendors' license?
Yes, it is, because we want to make sure military personnel and other people have to go through the license procedures. Now, the city council wants to say, just let everyone get a vendor's license. That is going to hurt brick and mortar businesses. We need to be very clear on who can get a license and where you can vend. Because if not, you will have total disorder. I don't know if you've been on Canal Street lately or in parts of Main Street, Flushing and Queens. Residents are saying, we don't want this in our community. It disrupts our community. And out in Corona, the council person said that people have set up cooking locations right in residential areas, right on their block. Someone is standing there cooking right on their corners. It just brings disorder to our city.
Do you find it interesting that there's that narrative that you supposedly sold out the city? People are saying that when you were never tried or convicted of anything, but the President of the United States openly supports Andrew Cuomo, and he was tried and convicted of a sexual assault and fraud. What's your reaction to all of that?
And that was part of, people couldn't beat me at the polling site. And if you were to go back and do an analysis of the first week in office, what type of press we were being hit with, the goal was always to erode my black support week after week, month after month, year after year. And, you know, when you are being fed this information, you have a tendency to believe it. So let's look at the facts. The fact is, I didn't know Donald Trump. You know, when he was running for office, he looked at what was happening here in New York. He said, look what they're doing to that mayor in New York. We never met. We never had any interactions. And when he got elected, he told the Justice Department, look at the case of what happened with Mayor Adams. And many people never read the indictment. I was charged with calling the building department and telling them to do an inspection on the building. Had nothing to do with getting upgrades in seats. That the connection never happened. And when they looked at some of the text messages that those prosecutors were sending to each other, you got a full understanding of how I was really targeted. This came out in my belief of a strong attack of the migrants and asylum seekers crisis. They were coming to the city. Almost 4,000 a week at one time, 8,000 every 2 weeks, and we had to feed, house, and clothe. And the Democratic Party at that time was upset of my criticism, and I believe I was targeted because of that. So look right now. We have taken the White House to court more than any mayor in the country. The White House has sued me over and over again. When I needed to speak with the White House to get jobs here, to deal with issues here, I'm able to communicate with the president. And when we disagree, I'm going to use the justice system and our civil justice system to address that. That narrative of, okay, he's under the control of the president, then I wouldn't have been sued by the administration, and I would not have gone forward with what we were doing in this administration. I've always been an independent voice. People who have watched me for years, when I was in the police department, I was an independent voice, state senator, borough president, and as the mayor. And I'm going to continue to do that. And that was the narrative that many people wanted to put out there. It's unfortunate that some of us bought into that narrative, and it just wasn't true.
Tell us, Mr. Mayor, what What do you think about some of the things that you've done well, and what can you do better?
Oh, this year was my 65th birthday. And yeah, September 1st, we Virgos, but you don't reach 65 years without reflecting on your life and say, I wish I would have done things differently. There were so many things I wish I could have done differently and as the mayor. But we inherited a city that was moving in the wrong direction. We were dealing with COVID. We were dealing with migrants and asylum seekers, crime, lack of housing, lack of jobs. Black unemployment was 4 times the rate of white unemployment when I became the mayor. And when you do an analysis, okay, where are we now? 3.5 years later, we built more housing in individual years, year 1, year 2, and year 3, in the history of the city. We're paying off college tuition for our foster care children and giving them life coaches until they're 21 years old so they won't slip through the cracks like they were doing previously. No low income New Yorker is paying any income tax in the city right now. We removed all of their income tax. We dropped the cost of child care from $220 a month to less than $20 a month. High-speed broadband and NYC resident. We're saving NYC resident $159 a month on their high-speed broadband bills. That's money right back into the pockets of New Yorkers. Paying off medical debt. You're a low-income New Yorker, you have medical debt, we're paying that off for you. That's the number 1 cause of bankruptcy. So when you look at what this administration has done and our wins that we have, you have to ask yourself that with all of the indicators that are used for a successful city, we check the boxes in all those areas. Were there moments that we could have had different people hired to do different roles in our administration? Yes. But when I came into office in 2021, in 2022 in January, no one wanted to come back to work. It was challenging getting people back into the office. People would say, Eric, listen, we love you, but you trying to have us come in and do 12 hours. I'm home. I'm getting unemployment that's going to pay me equal to the salary I had. I'm not coming back in the office. So you had to really build a team with those who are willing to serve, and that's what we've done. And we did a great job of bringing the city back. We have more jobs in New York in the history of the city. Drop unemployment by 20%, black and brown communities. So you start looking at these wins. That's the message I must share with New Yorkers, how well we've run the city. After 30 years since we had a mayor of color, 30 years, and we have a mayor of color that looked after the people of this city.
Is that part of the Yes initiative?
Yes, it's called a City of Yes, where we have a housing crisis in the city, and we knew we had to build more. But one of the reasons you can't build more is because the city is divided by community boards, 59 of them. And 10 community boards were building more housing than the other 49 combined. And so we are now able to build throughout our city based on the rezoning. And we have now... we have preserved affordable housing, we've built new housing, and we've zoned the city to build 426,000 new units of affordable housing. This is the most comprehensive housing reform in the history of the city.
And this helps out the black and brown community.
I'm glad you said that, because when I got elected with the whole concept of saying, who was government betraying in our city? Black and brown folks for years. So when you look at my policies, who's in our educational system? Overwhelmingly black and brown. So when my scores went up in the educational system and I did universal after-school program in pre-K and 3K, I helped all students, but predominantly black and brown, the benefits. Who are the victims of gun violence in this city? Black and brown. So when I removed 23,000 illegal guns off the street, when I dropped homicides and shootings this year to the lowest level of recorded history, I'm helping black and brown communities. Who's in NYC? Black and brown. When I say free high-speed broadband, I'm dealing with black and brown people overwhelmingly who's in NYC. When you think about the unemployment, who did we help? Black and brown. So when you look at all of these policies, it helped all New Yorkers, but zero in on them, it helped black and brown folks overwhelmingly in this city because they've been betrayed so many years by administration after administration. We zeroed in on them.
So how do you continue to win back or maintain the support among working class black voters in our black communities?
Important, 'cause that's my base. That's how I won the last time. In New York, to win citywide, you always had to win what they call the New York Times belt. Upper West Side, Brooklyn Heights, Park Slope, Cobble Hill, Carroll Gardens. You wouldn't win citywide if you didn't win that belt. I lost all of that when I ran for mayor. But I won mayor because the black and brown community came out, the immigrant community came out, the Jewish community came out. Those non-traditional communities mobilized around me. After 18 months of just being brutally attacked, really 3 years of just negative press, I lost my black base who thought that, okay, Eric is not delivering for us because they never read about it. It was never being covered. Normally, you'll hit a mayor on what they're doing wrong, but you'll also report on what programs they're doing successful. We didn't get that. We got just negative press. So now I must use my campaign dollars to go out and tell black and brown people what I did for them in the city. Because I hear it over and over again when I'm on the train or in a town hall. People say, when I share with what we have done, people often say, we didn't know that. No, you didn't know it, because where do you get your source of information from? And now I must tell them what we have done for this community. I delivered for black and brown people in this city.
That's right, because the polls are not encouraging, but we'll listen to what you're saying that you've done and you're doing.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Do you think that perhaps, I mean, your strategy for trying to win back a second term was, I thought, brilliant, by, staying out of the fray and waiting to see who's left, pick up the marbles and then go. But then Cuomo got in, he got out, he got in,
Right.
he kind of like,
Right.
messed up the cha-cha a little bit.
And
do you feel that you got your message out late because of your strategy?
Yeah, no. Well, and that's a great question that you're asking. And it was always my strategy that I was going to meet the Democratic primary winner, because I always thought it was going to be Zohan. And I was going to meet him in the general election. Andrew did what he has done over and over again. Many black people know the name Cuomo, and they believe it equals being fair and just to black and brown people, when it's just the opposite. What he did to me, he did to Carl McCall. Carl McCall was the first African-American to run for governor. He got in the race, really sabotaged Carl's race. He did it to a person named Charlie King when he ran to be the first African-American attorney general. He got in the race, pushed Charlie King out of the race. David Patterson, when David Patterson ran for re-election to be the first elected governor, he got in the race, sabotaged David, pushed him out of the race. And then go back. Many people don't realize what the Cuomos did to David Dinkins. David lost the race as mayor because of two primary reasons. One, the Crown Heights riot. They put out a report on the Crown Heights riot that was critical of Mayor Dinkins in the middle of the campaign. Then they did something else. They did something called a ballot amendment for Staten Island to do a succession from New York. Ballot amendments normally come through City Hall. The Cuomos put this out in the middle of the race, boasted the Staten Island Republican turnout that hurt David Dinkins. It was the difference maker in the votes. And that is what happened under his administration. So he has a history of doing what he's doing right now to me. He got in this race knowing I was in a general election. He knew Zohan was going to be in the general election on the working family line, and he got into this race to sabotage my re-election bid the same way he did so many other African-American leaders.
And what are you doing to overcome that?
Well, we have to get our message out. When you look at people say, well, look at the polls right now. We're about 7 weeks out. When you looked at the polls 7 weeks out in the primary, the polymarkets had him 87% to win. He was up 50-something% over Zohan's 20-something percent. He almost a 30-point lead in the polls. We know that it is too early. Elections are determined about 4 weeks out. That's when elections are determined, and he knows that. So when he starts saying, well, whomever is up 7 weeks out should be rally around, he's doing that with the understanding that he knows elections are not really determined until 4 weeks out. So what I must do is now use my campaign dollars to get my message out through mail-ins, through television, through social media, through door knocking, all of the things that would allow me to get my message out. This guy just spent $35 million, and he couldn't beat Zohan even after being up by 32 points. He spent $35 million. I have just started to spend my money.
I was looking at the numbers. As a matter of fact, the New York Times Siena College poll, and I was just juggling them around. Okay, so Mandami 46%, Andrew Cuomo only 24%.
Right.
Somebody's decided that maybe Andrew is not Mario. Curtis Lee were only 15%. Eric Adams 9%.
Right.
But then if Cuomo and Slee would drop out, you actually get 48% of the vote, and Mandami becomes 46%. You actually beat him.
Right.
So it's all a game of numbers and it kind of musical chairs or something.
Right. Exactly. And that polling right there, they're saying right now in this day of time, if this happens, what they are not having in it is that, well, what happens when Eric starts going up on TV? What happens when Eric starts, doing his commercials, his mailing? So they're saying with all that negative attack Eric received, he still can beat Zohan right now if he was going one-on-one.
Born, you got your boxing gloves on, you're ready to go.
Yes, we are. And so we're going to do some serious polling. Real polling to look at our people. We're going to do things called modeling to find out how people feel. We're going to also do focus groups and really find out what message people need to hear to move the needle.
I just want you, before we wrap up here, I want you to speak to those who don't know the city politically really, or who are too young to remember anything. Can you tell them what you've done for all New Yorkers, especially for people of color, and starting with your days as a member of the NYPD and 100 Blacks in law enforcement who care?
And I like that. I like that because, a lot of people, who really were not attuned to what was happening in the city. I cut my teeth on being an activist. Going back when Reverend Herbie Daughtry told me to join the police department as a young man, going into the police department, starting 100 Blacks in law enforcement who care, testifying against police abuse, police misconduct, but also public safety, doing a series of courses on what to do when stopped by the police so our young people didn't get wrapped up in the criminal justice system. And we were the go-to voice of reform and changing policing, then becoming state senator and being the ranking member of crime and correction, visiting all the correctional facilities and pushing legislation. The draconian Rockefeller drug laws that were incarcerating young people for small amounts of crack cocaine, I co-sponsored the bill to dismantle the Rockefeller drug law. When they were handcuffing our pregnant women to hospital beds and gurney beds, we passed legislation to stop that. All of this legislation that we put in place, the crisis management team, the young people now who are on the street to end violence, it was our legislation that funded and seeded the crisis management team. We used to call it SNUG, guns spelled backward, $5 million. And speaking of Andrew, as soon as he became governor, he took away the funding for that. And so my history has been speaking on behalf of the working class people of the city in general, but specifically black and brown people. And so when you see this narrative has flipped to say that, hey, he's not standing up for black and brown people, the policies don't match that. And the history doesn't match that. And we cannot be fooled. Like I always like to say, I never thought I would find the appropriate time to quote Malcolm, but we've been hoodwinked, man. We've been bamboozled. I mean, when you take someone who has given their life to uplifting black and brown people, and now you have black and brown people saying, well, you're not here for us. It's so important for people. Just go to my website and look at the win list of what we have done for people of color in this city.
You also call yourself kind of the workman's mayor, working people's mayor.
Without, and there's no one that, look in this race that isn't. Look who's in this race right now. We have a red beret, cape wearing, a character. You have a person who was a rapper, then an assemblyman who missed 50% of his votes, and now he wants to be mayor. Then you have Andrew Cuomo, who always had a silver spoon. These are elitists. They're not one of us. They don't know what Miss Meal cramps are. They don't know what it's like to live on the verge of homelessness. They don't know to seeing your mother work 3 jobs. They don't know what's waking up with gunshots in your community and having to find a way to navigate it. What you go through as a working class person. Now we have elitists that are saying we're going to come and tell you what's best for you. So all I ask people to do, just look at who's in the race. Look at who's in the race and say, you know what, maybe there are things I didn't like that Eric did. But pound for pound, there has not been a person who has delivered more for us, not only as mayor, but going back to when he was 18 years old, marching for Clifford Glover and Randolph Evans and Arthur Miller, standing up for the closing of our hospitals. There's such a record of what we have done. It would be a Shakespearean tragedy 30 years after David Dinkins inspired me to be the mayor of this city, that we go backwards and put it in the hands of others. We deserve another 4 more years to finish the job that we've started for people in general, but specifically for black and brown people.
Andrew Cuomo says he wants to hire more cops. How many have you hired?
What he's basically doing is going to ChatGPT and say, tell us all the good things Eric has done, and he's trying to duplicate it. The next class we put in is going to be the highest number of police officers in the history of the city. We're going to get back to the point of 35,000 police officers, and what we're doing that's successful, we're not allowing abusive policing. We cut down the numbers of stop and frisk. We were almost doing 1 million a year. We are being proactive by ensuring our young people have internships, 100,000 summer youth jobs, making sure that we summarizing program year-round school. We are doing teaching our formerly incarcerated young men. We're giving them their CDL license. So that they can continue to get jobs that pay from $74,000 to $125,000 a year. So we're being proactive and reactive. We're using the police force not only to respond to crime, but what can we do to prevent crime? Our Community Affairs Commissioner, Commissioner Stewart, he's teaching young people golf, teaching them how to get their real estate license, teaching them how to fly planes, teaching them how to do computer access. So we are using the department not only to go after people who commit crimes, but how do we stop crimes from happening?
And this is part of the proposals that you put together, working on to reduce crime, right?
Yes, that's the goal. Because if you can't just police your way into public safety. I like to say there are many rivers that feed the sea of violence. You have to dam each river. So if I'm not dealing with my formerly incarcerated young people, and when they get out of jail to get the training they need to be employed, I'm not helping the crime situation. I've been on Rikers Island more than any mayor in the history of the city. I got rebaptized with the inmates because I wanted them to know, listen, I'm you. I don't want you to think that because I'm mayor, I'm this elitist person. No, I am you, and thereby the grace of God, that I'm able to be the mayor. So I don't want to look down on you. I want to lift you up. And when you think about what we have done, it's about a holistic approach to dealing with public safety. Yes, I'm going to take the 23,000 illegal guns off the street, the 110,000 ghost vehicles that were committing crimes, close the 1,500 illegal cannabis shops so they won't be all over our community and magnets of crime. I'm going to decrease robberies, decrease retail theft. We're going to do all that stuff. But I also want to stop the criminal behavior. Archbishop Desmond Tutu say we spend a lifetime pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and prevent them from falling in the first place. We're an upstream administration. And so when I go to Rikers and I say to my inmates, how many of you are dyslexic or have a learning disability? 8 out of 10 raise their hand. So 30% of our inmates up there are dyslexic. So when I do dyslexia screening in every school so it doesn't go undiagnosed like I did, I'm preventing crime. Because if you don't educate, you will incarcerate. And we have been incarcerating too many young people because we were not giving them the services they need.
Is that part of what you'd like to be remembered for with this first term?
Yes. You know, when young people stop me and tell me that they were in a dark place because of their learning disability or dyslexia, and then all of a sudden they heard me on a television show saying I'm dyslexic, they're like, oh, wow, that man could be dyslexic. When young people hear about me making a mistake and getting arrested as a 15-year-old, but then I went on and corrected my life, every young person that's in a juvenile facility said, wait a minute, this is not the end of the road for me. When someone hears me talk about my medical struggles and feeling as though they just have to go down a pathway of amputation, blindness, and others, and say, wait a minute, the mayor turned himself around. I want my story of this perfectly imperfect person to show other people who are at a place of imperfection that never give up, never surrender. And that's what I want to be known by. I just want to be known by the everyday person that was fortunate enough, but God, to become the mayor of the greatest city on the globe. And the same person I was when I was that young 15-year-old is the same person I am right now in approachability and loving the people of this city. I'm not doing this because I need a job. I'm doing this because I want to do a good job. Because if I get it right, I'm going to improve the lives of people.
I've been to some places where some people yell out, "Sell out!"
Right.
You're not a sellout.
Right.
What do
right.
you say to that?
Yeah, and people are hurting, and hurt people hurt not only the people who look like them, but others. And remember what they got. I don't blame them, because look at what they had for 15 months. Every day they picked up the paper. They heard the worst things that could ever happen in administration, never knowing what I could have done. And they've done such a good job of convincing black and brown people that, oh, he's used by Donald Trump. They never look at the fact, hey, this was a guy that was in the police department and was standing up fighting while a cop. While a cop, I was doing 100 Blacks in law enforcement and doing the work for police reform. So I don't blame people for having that thought, because that's the information they were bombarded with every day, all day. Now it's my job to get in, remind them who I am, show them what I have done, and ask them, give me a chance to finish my job.
You ready?
Yes, I am.
You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, we have to rev it up. REV, become reverends. Register, educate, and vote.
So true. So true.
And remember what Senator Elizabeth Warren says. If you're not at the table, you might be on the menu.
Well said.
Make sure you're at the table and vote.
That's right. John Conyers once said, why do you think they try so hard to keep you from voting?
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Right. Right.
If you think it's not important.
Thank you. Great
Thank you.
seeing you both.
Thank you. Nice to see
Legends.
you. All right. Thank you.